Welcome to the Badass Direct Sales Mastery Podcast with your direct sales dom, Jennie Bellinger. Badass Direct Sales Mastery is a podcast for rock star direct sales moms who are determined to make their business kick ass. Jennie will share her knowledge of effective sales and recruiting techniques, tips to get what you want from your business, and will interview direct sales professionals and leaders from various companies. The interviews will give insight to how these rock stars got to where they are and where they plan to grow in the future. And now, the direct sales dom, Jennie Bellinger.
Welcome back to another episode of Badass Direct Sales Mastery. I'm your host, your direct sales dom, Jennie Bellinger, helping you whip your business into shape. And today I have with me a really fun guest that I met. I know you're going to be surprised. I met her networking virtually. And when we had a conversation, I knew that I had to bring her on the show because she just had so much great experience and so many things that even had me going, okay, that's good. Let's go. So I would like to introduce you to Coach Sandy Warren. Now, Coach Sandy is the hat she wears. Her experiences in life and her training brings her to this season in her life. Change and transformation come to all of us, bidden or not, invited or resisted. Her passion is to support her clients, encouraging them to take the wheel. She has moved through divorce, relocation, being a single parent of 2 for many years, working on 100% commission and doing what was expected of her with diligence and responsibility. She is now remarried, a grandmother of 4, and learning to play more. She has chosen to take her lessons, tools, and insights and bring them to you. Welcome to the show, Coach Sandy.
Thank you. Gosh, I sound excited to be here. That intro was lovely.
Well, it's what we co-created together, right? To get you out into the world. Well, and I think that's really cool because you and I do have that in common in that we worked on commission. You know,
Yes.
100% commission. And technically, I still work 100%. Well, I think we both do work 100% on what we get paid, right? And both having gone through divorce, raising 2 kids, and going through the process of adding a partner to our life again, right? So I think it's so interesting, especially, you know, the parallels of also you having been in network marketing as part of your commissionable, life. So tell the badass crew, really, how did you get to where you are and what made you go into this coaching realm?
Thank you. I would like to, and I would like, if I might, to just tag on to the fact that we met virtually networking, and that once I saw the word badass, I knew I too had to reach out to you because part of my theme is I'm a badass with a big heart. So when I coach, if somebody doesn't want to get real, they probably don't want me as their coach because as a badass, we have to be authentic, right?
Yep. Oh, 100%.
100%.
Yeah. I think that's part of our shared definition of badassery, right? Is that
exactly
that authenticity and transparency, because I can't think of somebody who I believe to truly be badass who isn't 100% themselves. I mean, right off the bat, like Pink comes to mind. You know, the music, the musician Pink, right? Not the color, y'all.
Exactly.
Right. So,
although Pink has been very good to me.
Oh yeah, no kidding, right? Y'all, she's saying that because she comes from the world of a Pink company. If you want to name them, you're welcome to.
Well, I call it my pink bubble. I lived in Mary Kay cosmetic world for over 25 years. So it was a pink bubble for me.
Yeah. But very good to you because if I remember correctly, you were a Cadillac driver, and that's a big deal.
Many times over, because Mary Kay said, if you rest on your laurels, you wilt. And so every 2 years, you needed to requalify for that car. So it was a consistent motivator and accountability. There's not really a way to say, oh, I drove a pink Cadillac, because you really need to keep driving that baby.
Right.
If
Yeah.
you don't, you're looking at car payments and insurance payments and all those things. And, it just made perfect business sense to keep doing what you were doing and increase what you were doing as the numbers may have increased from a requirement standpoint.
Right. Well, and so tell us the story of how you got into the world of network marketing. What made you want to get into Mary Kay more than 25 years ago?
Absolutely. I was in the medical field. I was doing radiation therapy. I started out as an X-ray tech, and then I went on to uh, learn to be a radiation therapist. And then I got pregnant. Radiation and pregnancy, not such a good match.
Yeah, not so
So,
much.
not so much. And plus, I was specialized in treating children. So then, when I was now pregnant, to treat children was just more than I could emotionally handle.
Mhm.
And so I was just in that limbo stage. I had no intention of getting into direct marketing. Direct sales was not something that I thought I would ever be good at. And I decided to get into the program, as so many of us do, because I liked the product, and why not get the product at a discount? And so that is where it began. And then I had my first class, and then I decided, okay, I like people. So if I just focus on the people, then I should be successful. That wasn't correct, but it was a beginning.
Yeah.
And so I discovered that, yes, I was good with people. Yes, I could book that next class and that next class. And my sales were incredibly low
Hmm.
because I didn't know how to ask for the sale. And I judged that they were as broke as I was, which was not usually the case. And
Mm.
so it took me breaking my own belief barriers to find a way to suggest what they needed, what would be great for them, listen to their needs throughout that class. And gradually, and with some pain, I discovered how to actually close a sale. I mean, I
Mm.
was the teenager who couldn't ask my parents for my allowance. So that'll give you an idea of how much I did not feel comfortable talking about money.
Oh, wow. Okay. So let's go down that path a little bit because I think that's a very common thing for people, interestingly enough, in direct sales, that asking
Yes.
for the sale can be one of the first big obstacles that they overcome in order to become successful. And if they can't overcome it, they're out, right?
That's exactly right. So I think that A, knowing that many of us have that as an issue, so you can't fix what you don't acknowledge. So B, knowing that it is fixable and other people have done it. And so having a role model or a mentor or practicing in the mirror,
Yeah.
there are ways to overcome that hurdle. And I think it's really important to know and understand your why, because without a passion, without a bigger reason, it makes it the hurdle bigger. And the why can be, in my case, it was simply I wanted to become real. I wanted to be taken seriously. And, in a sales organization, numbers count.
Mm.
So that was one reason. Gradually, not very long after, I was facing that divorce. And now it became mortgage and food. Okay, that became a definite why. And
Yeah.
then I really discovered that I loved bringing people into this business, that business, and giving them a space to define themselves, to grow in themselves. So I became a pretty darn good recruiter and trainer. But none of that happened in the first 3 months.
Mm. Oh, no, for sure. I mean, that's my own story. I mean, now I will say I was good at the sale because I knew if I didn't ask, the answer was going to be no, right? But I knew I could at least ask if they, when would you like to place an order? Do you want to place an order here at the party? Do you want to do it later? Do you that for me was not the hard piece. For me, it was the recruiting. It took me a while to make some certain connections between, well, if I can ask for the sale, I can ask if somebody would be interested in learning more about this opportunity for them, because, there's a lot more to it. And once I learned those things that help recruit, well, then you couldn't stop me from recruiting either, right? Because if
And
I was,
how good is that? How awesome is it that we both got to the point that we needed to get to, but we took a different path?
yeah.
And that is the other important ingredient, I think. We're not all, 5'2" or 5'7" or blonde or brunette or what. We are unique and we learn in unique ways and we progress in our business in unique ways. And if you're not stumbling over something, you're probably not growing.
Oh, yeah. Well, and two, I've heard it said you can't grow inside your comfort zone.
Oh, yes, that's true. So if
You
you don't
know?
want to be uncomfortable, don't play in this arena.
No, exactly. I mean, entrepreneurship, being in business, it is a very consistent state of discomfort. There's
Mhm.
either discomfort in learning or discomfort of, oh, that didn't go well, or, whatever it may be. But I think if someone is consistently comfortable, they've either A, reached their peak of growth, or B, they're not stepping outside their comfort zone. Right.
Yeah, yeah, they're probably
And
going backward.
yeah. And if you're, it's a basic biological principle. If you're not growing, you're dying.
Absolutely. And I love personality profiling and I've done
Hmm.
a whole bunch of it. And it really did help me with my recruiting to understand myself better, but to understand the women that I was dealing with. But I just did a recent one with Dr. Jim Quick, and it's super simple. And he places you into 4 different animals. And I'm a dolphin. And I had to laugh because it said, I don't fail. I just keep making mistakes and learning from them, but I don't consider it failure. And I thought,
Hmm.
I never pictured it in my head that way, but it is absolutely true. And because of that, I think that's what built my spirit to go ahead and take that next step,
Hmm.
to stumble, to become more resilient, to learn how to not only just say, give me, here's your wish list, what would you like to get off your wish list tonight? And then that moved me into my asking for the sale. But I had to find my own words. And that's the other thing I think that's important is finding the words that for some personalities, we have to invite people to play with us. For other personalities, we kind of have to give them a nudge for something that they want inside, but they're not willing to maybe take the risk on.
Hmm.
So, understanding yourself and understanding others' personalities, not with judgment, but with compassion, I think that makes us more capable of being of service and showing up for them.
Oh, I definitely agree with that. So you like the animal assessment. Are there others that you have been a fan of throughout the years that you felt were really helpful in your growth?
Yeah, I thought Myers Briggs was overwhelming and I didn't relate. And I
Mm.
thought DISC was very relatable, used that a lot. We had a trainer come in to Mary Kay Cosmetics years and years ago, and it was a program that I dearly loved. And it's interesting though, because my best friend, who was my mentor in Mary Kay, sincerely disliked it. And she felt that it put people into a box. I felt it let people out of a box. So
Mm.
again, it's such an interesting perception.
Well, so what I'm like you, I love disc. And the reason I love disc is because it's not about personality, right? It's not like Myers Briggs, which is about
Mhm.
personality. And if you're an ENFJ, you're an ENFJ,
And you're
right?
going to stay that
You're
way.
INTP. You like that is who someone is, right?
Right.
But what I think is fantastic about disc, and I know the people who have my badass crew who have been listening for a long time, we've had a lot of conversations around disc on this show, a lot. But just in case this is someone's first time ever hearing, disc is about behaviors, and behaviors change. So if you would like to share that with your best friend, let her know does not and cannot put people in a box as long as the people understand that disc is pliable and disc changes. So, I have my clients take a disc assessment when they start with me so I know who I'm coaching. And then every 6 months they get a new one because a lot can happen in 6 months, right? And that changes our behaviors, and that changes how people show up in the world.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Our core values are our core values, but our beliefs are built on something much more pliable, to use your word. And I think that is where DISC excels. I have remained somewhere between a high I and a high D. So depending upon what environment you put me in will also determine who shows up.
Yeah. Oh, very much so. No wonder you and I get along so well because I've always tested as a high I, like literally at a 99. I've never tested below a 99 for my natural. My adaptive sometimes drops to a 94 because apparently they're
highly adaptive.
Right. Apparently, I'm like, you know what? Maybe sometimes people don't need that much fun, I guess. But my D has fluctuated, and that really has to do with what's going on in life and business. And for those who don't know, I is an inducer, influencer, and all about fun and adventure. And the D's are drivers. It's the dominant piece, and it's about results and how quickly results happen, right? And so for the past 2 or 3 times that I've taken the disc, which reminds me I'm about due to take it again. So yay, I'll taking that again. But for the past 2 or 3 times that I've taken it, I've been a 90/90 as well.
Wow.
So I have been in the I need results and I need them yesterday.
Exactly. And I think I like to think of the high I as being very inclusive. And that inclusivity is a large reason of why I love coaching, because we are in a time when we have felt very excluded and we have cocooned. And I am all about, like you are, the fun, but the inclusiveness, the hug, the you are not broken. You are great and amazing. You've just forgotten how great and amazing you are, and you need a cheerleader. And I don't think a coach is only a cheerleader, because I do think the coach has to help you to open up and rediscover and really investigate some of those beliefs that have kind of been secretly given to you. It's kind of like the quietness of how some of those beliefs got here. Some of them are loud, but some of them are pretty sneaky. And I think that's one of the other programs that I've trained in for over a year is called Positive Intelligence. And it really helps us to understand our saboteurs. And mine is, talk about the high D, mine is a controller. Well, as a single parent working at 100% commission, trying to raise 2 kids, acknowledged, I am a controller. But now I don't need to be that controller. So when I'm in a group, nobody in a more social group wants to be told how to behave, where to show up, and what they should do next. So that isn't a popular place to be. So learning to be more inclusive and use that strength was a much better choice for me. So my controller had to be kind of settled down a little bit, calm down and redefined. So there's always change.
Oh no, for sure. I mean, I did the saboteur assessment as well, the PQ assessment as well. Now I'm not trained as a coach in that, and nor do I want to add that to my list of things to do, because I feel like I've got so many resources.
Yeah.
But one thing that I've known about myself because of that, and it was something I already kind of knew, but this really helped bring it to the forefront, is my biggest saboteur is my high achiever.
Yes. Which is my number two.
Mm.
Imagine that as a controller, I would also be a high achiever.
I know. And so I just remember that one being the one that, because the judge is always there, right?
Always.
Always there. And because of my high achiever, my judge can't be loud.
Right.
My judge whispers. And it's just
Exactly.
so quiet. Like, and I when I envision my judge is a Star Wars Sith Lord, because I'm that nerd.
Yeah.
Just that very quiet, just very much like the Emperor Palpatine, who Darth Sith in the first 3 Star Wars. He would just kind of whisper at Vader, do this. And then when he wasn't being heard, that's when he finally would get loud, because, when there was pushback, and mine is the same way, whisper, whisper, whisper. But then if I push back, no, it gets louder, right? So for me, that's been very helpful to be aware of, because then when I start hearing the whispers, I can, oh, that's nice.
Right.
Okay, go sit in the corner.
And I think you're 100% right. It's an awareness to the voices that we're hearing and what we choose to acknowledge or not acknowledge. My superhero picture is Wonder Woman. And it's interesting because when I went through positive intelligence, they said, choose your image. Well, it was automatic for me because as a young mom raising those 2 kids, some days you just knew it was going to be coming at you fast and hard. And I would look in the mirror while I'm trying to put on my mascara with some little person tugging on my leg and saying, you know what, sister, we're going to polish this belt up today. We're going to need to be the force. And it was just such a natural thing for me to think that way then and realize that she's still very much with me.
Oh my gosh. So if you don't already know this, I hope you are going to enjoy this. But did you know that the person who developed DISC is the same person who wrote and invented Wonder Woman?
I did not.
Uh-huh.
Oh my, I did not know that. That is awesome. I'll tell you what, the universe is a marvelous, magical place. I mean, it brings us where we need to be.
Yeah. I have a sign in the entryway to my home. It's a picture of Wonder Woman, and it says, I'm not saying I'm Wonder Woman, but I am saying that you've never seen us in the same room together. Right?
That is fun.
So I highly recommend, if you haven't seen it, go on a streaming network and see if you can find Professor Marston and his Wonder Women, because Professor Marston,
Absolutely.
he is the developer of the DISC assessment. And other fun fact, okay, because this is one of my, if you remember David Letterman and he had the stupid
Yes.
human tricks, my stupid human trick is remembering random trivia. So Professor Marston and his wife also were the inventors of the lie detector.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
I had to take a note because even though my brain is brilliant, I am not hyper diligent.
Yeah.
And so little things kind of escape me. And I think that's the other part of the DISC program, is the S for that security and stability, and that C for all the compliance issues. I could no more be a compliance person than I could probably be an underwater diver. Maybe I could probably be an underwater diver first. So it really does help me to say, I'm going to play in the arena that I'm already good at and get better.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to play in that. Like one of my yoga students is in banking, and she's very much a compliant person. She's also in that other animal thing. She's an owl. So she created all the details. So when I need somebody to proofread something or help me to say, am I on the right track? I know exactly who to go to. And there's no sense in me spending my time doing something that A, I don't like, and B, I'm not good at. I mean, you could send me to the grocery store and have me get, and my mother did this, she wanted cranberry sauce, and I don't eat cranberry sauce. And so I went in and I got a cranberry sauce and I brought it home 3 times before I got the right cranberry sauce. So simple, right? But I didn't beat myself up for it. I just went back and got another cranberry sauce. I said, why
Yeah.
didn't I just get all of them so she could tell me what to bring back? But I didn't think of that till later. But we don't have to beat ourselves up for not being good at something.
No. And there's no way to be great at everything,
It isn't.
And so I love the ability to then, yes, provide that grace for ourselves and say, you know what? Because I think that's the key as a single parent and somebody who's running a business is you can't do everything, right? As my kids were getting older, one of the things that I had my coach point out to me, and she's like, well, why aren't your kids doing things around the house? Why are you
Oh,
the
for
one
sure.
doing all the cleaning around the house and da da da? And I went, oh,
Hmm. We had a rule that in our house, so son and daughter, few years apart, and you had sports and you had times that studies were harder or whatever, and so we delegated the meal cooking, and the rule was whatever that person cooked, you ate or
mhm.
didn't eat, but you didn't complain, and that
Mm,
was that. And when my son was old enough, but really tall enough was the critical component for the stool to be at the washing machine so that he could reach down and get his clothes. That's when he started doing his laundry. And if you don't have a clean uniform, well, you're going smelly because you didn't wash it.
mm-hmm.
So it is. And now I'll tell you what, both of my kids have 2 kids each, and they are great parents. And I won't say that either one of them delegate quite as extraordinarily as I did, perhaps because I did.
Yeah.
But their kids are well adjusted, and it's great to see the young people that you've raised become very strong individuals.
Oh, yeah. It's so true. And I also, to bring this back to business, right? And the equivalent in the world of direct sales and network marketing and MLM is getting to watch your team grow.
Absolutely.
Oh my gosh, because your team really does become there's this wonderful, at least the way I experienced it was, yes, they started out as the people that I was helping to nurture and bring up. And as they came up and rose to the occasion and, grew into themselves, we became stronger friends. There are still people, even though I'm not active in that world, I'm still friends with them.
Absolutely. It's real. And to your point, to bring it back to business, whether it was being in Mary Kay or whether I'm also a yoga instructor. And, that mind body connection, I teach intuitively in yoga and I coach intuitively. Yes, I have certifications and trainings, and certainly they come into play just as our conversation has. But I think it really is the belief in people that we bring to the table. That is our authentic voice. And to want to be of service without judgment is another authentic voice. And it's where relationships are built. And business really, when you're an entrepreneur, I truly believe that your business, the growth of your business, comes from that. To be an entrepreneur takes a wholeness in yourself. And that's what we share.
Mm. Woo, so much there. And it's interesting because some of the things that we've talked about, a lot of growth and a lot of this. And it's so funny because, the meeting that I had before I met with you was a BNI meeting and actually a BNI training, a thing where we were meeting with other people and discussing, interestingly enough, one of the groups that I work with and their resistance to the
Uh-huh.
process.
Yes.
Compliance, as you talked about with the C from the disc, right?
Mhm,
Resistance
mhm,
is
mhm.
so a part of things. And so I think each one of us has a resistance to some part of our business, a resistance to success, I'm thinking of a friend of mine right now who is not in the industry, but she's an entrepreneur, and she's had resistance to success because her belief is in order to achieve a certain amount of money, she has to be the one to work a lot.
Absolutely. It's a common belief, just like imposter syndrome is alive and well. And, there are so many factors out there. I think one of the toughest ones is other people's expectation of us. And one of my favorite quotes is, what somebody else thinks of me is none of my business.
Oh my gosh, if you guys could see me, my arms are in the air. So true.
And
So
you're 100% right. I love when the people that I've coached say, I hear you in my head. I've overcome this. Or I love taking words out of a woman's vocabulary, like I can't, or I'm fine. That makes me insane to hear people say I'm fine, because 99% of the time they are not fine, and they're burying something. So it's an excitement that I think both of us bring, because we believe that we can make a difference.
Oh, yes. So, overcoming resistance then, because if we can find that point of resistance, which that's pretty easy because it's like, what is it that you're not doing that you should be, but you're not. So why,
Right.
right? Why? How can people begin to overcome those resistances?
Well, I think awareness is number one, and I think getting tools is number two, because if we can continue to do what we've always done, we know what that is. That's insanity.
Yeah.
But we don't know what next tool to try. And so that's where I think having a coach or a mentor or that comes in. But we need to build a different mindset. And that's where understanding your saboteur comes in. So I think it's very layered. But one of the things that I have an analogy that one of my other things that I love is people's shapes, which shape they gravitate to. And somebody who gravitates to the shape of a circle is someone who wants to not have any discord in their life. They want everybody to be happy. They fall into the people pleaser category. And when we are at the top of our circle, when we're empowered, we are wonderful, incredible human beings to reach out and help somebody else. But when we're at the bottom of the circle as women, we don't reach our hand out very well to ask for help. And that's where we need to get better. And that is a tool. If we will trust each other to be there for each other, I think that can help us to be better in life, but it can help us to be better in business. It can help us to make more money. It can help us to let go of those saboteurs that are holding us back. We've been given the scenario that you have to work hard to get ahead. Well, there's also another scenario that says maybe you can just work smart.
And
And
I
that's a
think,
tool.
yeah, that's a tool. And I think what you were alluding to was, so you said, to get over these these resistances, awareness is key. What are you resisting? Having tools, but then you said coach, mentor, support, right?
Yep,
Having
absolutely.
having those pieces is important. But one of the tools that you have decided to gift to the Badass Crew is your Resistance to Resilience book. So tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, I think that we don't acknowledge what we've overcome. And when we can acknowledge what we've overcome, that it becomes our resilience. So rather than putting down ourselves, we need to say, wow, I did that. I can do this. I have succeeded at that. I can succeed at this. And so I wrote that book like a recipe, because each ingredient that we choose to take and put in can make a difference. So I may not want to eat white flour, and I might not want to eat butter, but if I add some milk to it, I get bread. I can eat bread. So
Yeah.
we
I love
sadly
that.
perhaps, but I can eat it very well. And I think if we would take the ingredients that are in us and maybe add a little cinnamon to it, we can continue to become more and more resilient. And in that, we can celebrate ourselves, the small steps that we take on a daily basis. So that's why I wrote the book, because every once in a while we just need to open it up and say, I need a little cinnamon today.
I love that. Yeah, add a little spice to life, right? Yeah.
A little fun, a little laughter, and connected with that ebook are several meditations, because I do think that my daughter is a prime example. She would come to me and say, Mom, I can't sit still that long. I can't meditate. And I said, are you still having a cup of tea in the morning? She said, yes, every morning. I said, that's your meditation. Be grateful for that cup of tea, feel the warmth in your hand, and just breathe with that cup of tea for 5 minutes. And then it will grow. And she's now really a morning meditator on a very consistent basis. But many of us think that we have to sit down for an hour in silence. That isn't for all of us. It may never be.
Yeah.
But there are
No,
some meditations that attach to that I hope people will find as a tool to help them adjust that mindset.
absolutely. And I'm one of those people who prefers, I'm not going to say that I can't meditate, because I can. I have
Yes.
trained myself in that direction, though. My preference, though, is it are guided meditations. I find them
Yes.
very helpful, because with my ADHD, it does help keep my brain focused on what is being said, the direction that we're going, etc. So I'm going to let the Badass crew know, of course, the link to the book and the meditations is in the show notes. And for those of you, if maybe this is your first time you've ever listened to the show, the way you can get that link, because we're not going to say it out loud, because you have to do the whole spell everything out and all that fun stuff. Just grab your phone, as long as you're not driving, click on today's episode, scroll under Sandy's picture, and you'll see the episode notes or show notes, depending on which app you're looking at. If you're on YouTube, it's the description underneath the episode, and you'll see the link directly to the Resistance to Resilience ebook and the meditations. So, Sandy, thank you so much for this conversation. I think this was definitely something that opened some people's eyes to a variety of assessments, resistances, and maybe just their own story that they can begin to take a look at and decide, okay, where do I want to go with this? Am I being too comfortable, or is discomfort a good sign of my forward moving progress?
Thank you for the opportunity. And I hope that we've touched some lives and put some smiles on some faces and maybe given them a new tool. And so thank you very much for this lovely opportunity and for being the badass that you are.
Oh, well, no, thank you for being here, because this conversation would be pretty boring just with Jennie by herself. So
Boring is not an adjective I would typically attach to your name.
No, exactly. But it's much more exciting with somebody else and much more fun. And that's the high eye in both of us.
I was going to say, especially two high eyes coming together. And if you don't wrap this up, I won't wrap this up, and we'll be here forever. So I respect your time.
Amen to that. So, of course, make sure you go check out that Resistance to Resilience ebook down in the show notes. And if you want to connect with Sandy, Sandy, how can they connect with you if they want to thank you for today's episode and what they learned?
Thank you. The easiest way is coachsandy.com.
That sounds good. All right. So, Badass crew, you know how this goes. Stay tuned, because there's another badass episode on its way.
Thanks for listening to the Badass Direct Sales Mastery Podcast with your direct sales dom, Jennie Bellinger. Why are you waiting to go to badassdirectsalesmastery.com? Don't make the dom get her whip. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to share it with another rock star that you know in direct sales after you subscribe to the podcast, so you won't miss any future episodes. You can also check out the show notes for links and any contact information mentioned in today's episode. We'll see you next time.